All right, here we are. We've had our deep breaths. We've had our woo-saws. We've had all the things we need. It's time to get back into Week 13 with this team trying to stay alive and keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, look, the Washington Commanders' focus is on the future, just maybe not as deep into the future as some people want it to be.
Hey, you know what? I'm still on the beach a little bit. I'm still on the bye week, but let me clock in. The Commanders, you got some work ahead of you, but I think they made a good decision of keeping Jayden Daniels out of this matchup.
Hail to the Commanders! It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
We got David Harrison, we got Anthony Armstrong, we got Nick Ashew. We are heading into Week 13 of the NFL season, which means the Commanders are done with their bye. They've had their breath. They've had their relaxed time. They've had their, vacation, like Anthony said with this. Maybe they went and got some sun. Hopefully Dan Quinn continued to work on this defense throughout that entire bye week. We're going to look ahead to the potential that this team actually does get eliminated from the playoffs, though, against the Broncos on Sunday night. We'll also look ahead to maybe what this defense looks like the rest of the way, and Jayden Daniels back practicing with the team again. What that means, though, for the rest of the season for him. We are brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, I know it's crazy because we're hitting Week 13 of the NFL season, but we're starting to talk about playoff scenarios, and some of those are fun. Last year, this time of year, man, it was fun talking about playoff scenarios with this team. The reality is we're not in that spot now. We're talking about potential, even though it's a long shot, elimination for the Commanders if they lose to the Broncos because the 49ers won on Monday Night Football. Now, this includes teams having to win this weekend like the 49ers again, the Packers again, the Seahawks, the Bears. All those teams have to win for the Commanders to be officially eliminated, plus they also have to lose to the Broncos Sunday night as well. And David, you wrote about this, I know, so I thought it really kind of laid out, listen, I understand it's a long shot here, but it really does kind of put this game and this season in perspective, where we've talked a lot about kind of driving on these two roads, right? Win now and rebuild and all of these things. Well, if they're eliminated this weekend and all of these factors come together and that perfect storm comes together for them, we're not talking about anything other than rebuilding for next year after that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the public narrative certainly is going to go. But I think that's where a little bit of the focus is already. Like, I don't think the team would ever, obviously admit it. But like Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, they've been in this business long enough. Anthony, the players have been in this business long enough. Even the rookies, they know the score, right? They know the temperature of the room. They know that you look around and you see it. Like, they know that being 3-8 in this situation, you're very far off the pace, and you're not likely to get back on the pace that you need to earn a postseason bid. Because let's be honest with you, like, even if, say one or two of these teams that are supposed to win this weekend to potentially eliminate the Commanders lose next week, all they got to do again is just win again. And like, what's the likelihood that 3 or 4 teams are going to go on a 5 or 6 game losing streak to let you get back into this thing? I think the ironic thing is the Bears are one of those teams that need to win. So the Eagles losing is actually a bad thing for Washington Commanders fans this weekend if you still have playoff hopes.
Started off early with the mute on, trying to be responsible.
I knew it.
Hey, let's just
you're in your own bye week, aren't you?
Just trying to get that out of the way, man. I was making too much noise over here. Look, I'm at the age, Nick, where before I sat down, I said, "Ooh, let me use the bathroom because I'm gonna be here for an hour and I'll be squirming the whole time." But look, how to stay alive in this thing. Look, that's a whole bunch of long shots right there. I honestly didn't know that they could get eliminated this week, that soon. But hey, at least it could take some pressure off of you. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change the performance on the field. It doesn't change that expectation. But yeah, you're right, Nick. The front office, they've already ramped up the scouting, and they probably have their list together, and they're looking into mock drafts and following David and seeing what he's saying, who to pick, and all of that. So they're already handling those things. But trust and believe. That's already been handled. And when you talk about rookies learning how quickly it turns into a business, man, I tell you, it's when them cut days happen. And it goes from all happy congrats on training camp to, hey, look, week 1, we got to focus on this defense. And it is, no fanfare anymore. So, yeah, they're right, David. That's how it goes. But I don't know. I'm not looking for them to be in the postseason. So I'm going to sit back, put my sunglasses back on, and enjoy this playoffs calmly.
It's again, like I know it's obviously a long shot there. More than anything, I just thought it was great work by David to kind of put all that together when he wrote about it, because I think it's, it just at least puts the thing in perspective. But bye weeks are interesting, and like everybody's human, and they need time to clear their heads, and they need time to sort of either break themselves out of a routine or get into a better routine, get back to where they used to be, whatever the case is. And I mean, I'll probably lean on you for this, Anthony, since you were the former player here. Like, when you hit bye weeks or had those times where, like, you just as a player, not even as a team, because I know you can't, everybody's got different routines, but like, what was something there, like kind of the approach that you had for these breaks, whether it's just an extended break or it's an actual bye week? Like, what was sort of the way that you approached it, to whether it was continue to do what you were doing in that season or to improve?
Yeah, ultimately it was finding a little time to get a little rest and reprieve, and understanding that there was still more work to be done. Having that extended break to have anything that was injured, that was bothering you, that you generally work through practice, it was time to get those things handled. And then if you go mentally, looking at the tape, what has worked before in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, and what things you want to focus on, it just kind of help you recalibrate as you finish the season. So especially whereas, this team not likely to go to the playoffs, they're not thinking too much about, postseason play. They're thinking about livelihood, right? They're thinking about, what team am I going to be on? Is it going to be here? What type of things do I want to put on tape? So this bye week, if I were on the roster, would have been a lot about getting healthy and trying to figure out which ways I can contribute and make the biggest impact for the rest of the season. I mean, that could be special teams. I mean, you seeing the young fella in Dallas, Elijah Clark, on punt coverage. That's the type of stuff that anybody coming off of the bye week should be trying to put on tape. I don't care if you're a 31-year-old veteran or if you're a 22-year-old rookie. You should try to put those things on tape, especially coming off of this bye week and you're trying to finish with some energy.
I love how much that rookie is getting credit for that, right? And I love also how people point out, like, that play specifically almost went from like one of the worst reps that you're going to want to watch back on tape to being one of the best reps that he's ever put on tape. So but I think that's also a microcosm. It kind of just shows the value of just continuing to stride, continuing to push forward, continuing to try to get your feet underneath you, and you never know what could happen, right? And I'm reminded of, obviously it's a little bit of a different sport and all that stuff, but years ago, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and yeah, I'm a Buckeye fan, but like they're basically left for dead. There's like 2 weeks left in the season, and they're basically left for dead. You're not going to the playoffs. You're not getting in. It's just not going to happen. And not only do they handle their business, but the other teams that could have kept them out weren't able to handle their business. The Buckeyes end up in the postseason. They end up winning the first ever college football playoff national championship, whatever. But again, like everybody was saying, like, there's no way it's going to happen. Like, too many teams got to lose, too many weird things. And, me as a Buckeye fan, I'm like, yeah, but if this happens, and this weird thing happens, and this curveball goes over here. And it was like, yeah, you're crazy. But guess what ends up happening? Because that team took care of their business, they were able to make things happen. Now, am I saying that's going to happen here in this NFL season? No, it's a rarity for a reason. But if you are the Washington Commanders, that's when I kind of said in the cold open, Nick, is like, they're looking at the future. Right. But their future is this Sunday night, and then how that's going to bleed into next Sunday afternoon, et cetera, not 2026, because they understand that everything they do right now, like for everybody out there says like the focus should just be on 2026. The focus is on 2026 because the growth you experience this Sunday, next Sunday, et cetera, will take you into 2026. And there are going to be lessons. There's going to be a pass rep in 2026 where Jayden operates differently in October 2026 because of what he experienced in December of 2025 versus had he not had that experience. And I can't tell you what that's going to be in the future, but those are the values that experience brings you, and that's why these guys want to get every rep they can.
Yeah, I think it's right. It's that tough situation because we can talk about the front office listen, the front office has been thinking about next year since this past off season. I mean, we can talk about all the contracts that are up. We'll have plenty of time for that. But the reality is, like, that's what the front office job is. Players' job is to go out there and play on the field, and coaches' jobs are to coach. And I know I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but in reality, that's what we're looking at here now. So in the end, they win. They beat the Broncos on Sunday night, come out of the bye week refreshed and look like a team that just kind of had a reset, then we're still talking about this season being alive. And it's not like, you talk about Ohio State, David, and that, like, we've seen this time and time again in sports where teams have late season runs and players are, without question, I think I'm not going out on a limb saying that players without question are thinking about how they can go on a run and be in playoff contention week 15, 16, and 17 here. But that's based on obviously first having to beat the Broncos. Like, you've got to win that game, because 3-8 versus 3-9, we start talking, like, we've seen this team before at 3-6 make the playoffs. That was, with RG3, we've watched other, scenarios in the past where this team has gone on long runs. We've watched other teams in other sports do the same thing. Like, that's the beauty of sports. That's what makes it fun, is that there are these scenarios where they are possible, even if they're long shots, they're possible. And so they're still in that spot. But the reality here is that they've got to go up against the Denver Broncos team on Sunday night that has one of the strongest defenses in the NFL. And you're sitting here looking right now in a situation where you're still going to have your backup quarterback in Marcus Mariota. You're still going to be in a spot where you've got all of these injuries that are there. But this will tell you the rest of the way. And I'll tell you this, guys, too, no matter what, I certainly think big picture with this team. I think of, what they can do to build themselves a foundation that's going to be an established winning culture for years and years to come, where you're not counting them out in any situation like the Chiefs on Sunday. My God, the Chiefs found a way to win again. I'm so sick of it, but damn it, they found a way to win again. At one point, I want this team to be what the Chiefs are, where we're able to watch them every week and go, dude, they still got a chance to win. They got Jayden Daniels, and it goes to overtime, and they kick a game-winning field goal, whatever. But because of the fact that they're not there yet, there is this level of, okay, the rest of this season, even if they're losing, and I know people hate this, but there's bad losses and good losses. Like, damn it, if it's at least good losses where young guys look prepared and like they're growing and they're taking advantage of these opportunities with so many different names and so many different players out, Anthony, that when you look at this and say, okay, they've at least got a foundation and there was momentum at the end of the season that carries over into the offseason and into next year. Those are the small things that don't show up in a box score, don't show up in the standings, but do still matter when you're trying to build this team the rest of the way into the offseason.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to go back to my most recent favorite website, or at least one of them, find these daggum snap counts. I'm looking on here. You know who has four fewer snap counts than Terry McLaurin? Luke McCaffrey has 4 fewer snap counts than Terry. That's kind of crazy to think. Jalen Lane, 278 snaps. And I said this last week. I said it before. All of those reps, they wouldn't have normally gotten if everybody would have been healthy. So this stuff helps you think about 2026 and helps you get that development. The Elijah Clark rep, that's the stuff you need to see from the young guys when you're thinking about 2026 and who's going to be around. Those things are important. Having these reps and having people up there being able to to contribute right now is big. And the biggest thing to pay attention to is who's showing up like they give a damn. Really, I think I said it before, said it last week. That's what we need to see. That's how you're going to put yourself in a position and to win something. And if you, like you say, if it's a good loss at the end where it's like, man, it was close and we just missed out on it, then so be it. And I think this Denver team is a game where it should be that way, right? Denver's played a lot of one-score games. They've kept a lot of things close. Their defense is really good. And so it kind of pairs up well to where you could have a Marcus Mariota show up and lead the offense and kind of shake off the rust from Madrid and, be able to lead them down the field against a very tough defense that should be without Patrick Surtain. So that's a good thing. Then you have the other corner who's been a favorite target of a few people. So that could help open up the offense a bit right there to get some things rolling. But the one thing I want them to do is go over there to East Rutherford and look into Mike Kafka's bag and get creative. Get creative on offense. Why the hell not? Run a reverse or two. Have a little fun with it, because when you have lesser talent, I'm using air quotes here, when you're using your 3s, 4s, and 5s, you're already walking in thinking we're outmatched. Have some fun. Run some trickeration. I don't need to see Mariota running routes, but do something to create some spark and try to get an explosive for your offense and try to make this a game on Sunday night so it's not so one-sided.
Yeah, look, I mean, honestly, Nick, you mentioned it, right? But this team competing really well and losing, it actually would fit what a lot of the fans want right now, because again, a lot of fans are looking to April. They're like, forget March and free agency. They're straight up looking to April right now in the NFL draft. So a competitive loss is actually, you know, helpful to those types of fans. I kind of go back to week 16 of 2023. Washington Commanders fall to the New York Jets 30-28 thanks to a Greg Zuerlein 54-yard field goal. By the way, Greg Zuerlein, 54% from 50 plus in his career, and he makes that field goal. Wow. That field goal alone gives the Washington Commanders Jayden Daniels. Like, without that field goal, the Washington Commanders don't have Jayden Daniels. But also, if you go back to that game, guys, Chris Rodriguez, 10 carries, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry. I remember talking to Chris in the locker room after that game, dapped him up, gave him a nice little bro hug. I was like, man, like, this is exactly what we've been talking about. You know you can do this. I know you can do this. I know his dad has always been a big supporter of his, saying, you know you can do this in the National Football League. And that was really kind of that first moment where everybody got introduced to Chris Rodriguez, was able to say, like, hey, like, this dude can play. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, it took a little bit longer for the team to catch up, apparently, right? But that's kind of stuff you're talking about. Like, I would love to see Marcus Mariota leading some really solid drives in this game, even if they have a competitive loss against the AFC West leading Denver Broncos, by the way. Like, this isn't a scrub team that's coming in here, right? But I'm more interested in, you know, listen, guys, I did an episode of Locked On Commanders for Monday. I did a mock 2026 offseason based off of what I know right now. And what I know right now is that Bobby Wagner is by far the best linebacker on this team and the quarterback of this defense. So I said, you got to go re-sign him. As of right now, this offseason, you got to go re-sign Bobby Wagner, keep him from retiring. Zach Ertz, as much as he struggled in certain areas, guys, he is very clearly the best tight end on this roster. So even with those struggles, if he's not going to retire, you got to bring him back too. And I got a little bit of hate comment from it. I knew it was coming. I expected it. That's fine. But here's the bottom line. If you tell me Ben Sinnott in a competitive loss against the Broncos goes off for 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown, okay. Jordan McGee leads the team in tackles, comes in, gets a strip sack, or maybe gets a fumble or an interception, something like that. Okay, we start seeing some of these unheralded young players make plays that show you, hey, maybe there is a sign that this guy could be something for the future. Then maybe you can get me off of this conversation and bring the old guys back. But that's not what we're seeing so far. So when you get that competitive loss, how do you get that competitive loss? Because I'll tell you right now, if you get a competitive loss where Marcus Mariota leads the offense, Zach Ertz leads the team in receptions and touchdowns, Deebo Samuel, who's a pending free agent, also gets a touchdown, and Bobby Wagner leads the team in tackles and makes a bunch of adjustments that keep the Broncos within a manageable score. I have a hard time telling you as a Commanders fan on Locked On Commanders postgame that, man, look at the young nucleus of this team and how ready they are to take this team into 2026, if that's the case, because that has been the case. Competitive or non-competitive losses, it's the veterans that are keeping this thing afloat. The young guys, even the second-year players, Nick, are not taking the strides that maybe we wanted them to coming into the year.
So I think you bring up a good point here, too. Is it Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz still have massive value to this team for 2 reasons. One, they're just still better than the talent that's behind them on the depth chart. Like, just plain and simple, like that still matters. But there's also the level of the veteran leadership that's there. The quarterback of the defense, like you mentioned, the guy that you still can count on 3rd and 3. There's just been a lot more for Zach Ertz in terms of the penalties this year. The difference is moving forward, they have more value on this team if you look ahead, based on them having a smaller role maybe in the offense and the defense next year, because there's more younger guys that can contribute in a way that's actually on the field, but you still have that veteran presence that's there. Like, that's the difference. Veterans still matter on teams, right, Anthony? Except sometimes there's a point where, like, they maybe don't need as many of those snap counts that you talk about, and it's based more on what they're doing in the locker room, what they're doing in practice, and how they're extending the coaching staff's philosophy onto the field, onto the sidelines in those moments where, listen, sometimes it's like I can give my wife advice, and sometimes she's just going to say, yeah, you're supposed to say that because you're my husband. But it's another when a friend that we trust kind of tells her the same thing, and it's like, oh, yeah, this rings a little bit differently than when it does coming from my husband. So sometimes it might be the coach says one thing, but Bobby Wagner says the same thing, and it makes more sense, and it just kind of hits more. And you're laughing, Anthony, but it's true when it comes from somebody like Bobby Wagner. This stuff matters.
Yeah, you get out of my kitchen. Man, look, there's a thing. When I'm sitting here, I wrote down Wags, I wrote down Ertz, is because their performance and the way they play is the leadership that you need from them. The key, what I'm looking for from whoever you add to this team, is how did the coaches develop the young players, right? How do you develop them? How do you help take their game from college to the next level? How the hell do you take their game from their previous organization into your organization to the next level? Because the name that's been floating around, a young fella out there in LA, the Rams, Emmanuel Forbes, is playing good football, and he's getting national recognition for it. And over here, we tore him down. You know what I mean? Yes, he was playing bad football, but we tore him down, ran him out of town. Now he's playing good ball. So I need to see you develop, right? How can you develop the players you already have? Because they're getting a lot of reps. I talked about it last time. We talked about it ad nauseum. They're getting those reps on the field, but the coaches have to really make sure they take these kids to the next level, especially the young guys they're going to add in. So I would say, yeah, you need to have Wags come back. Because I'm thinking about the teams, even though we didn't win a lot of ball games in 2010 and 2011, but I couldn't imagine what the defense would have looked like without London Fletcher on the field. You know, could you imagine? Like, when it's like, hey, where do I line up at? I don't know. I just know I got cover 3. Like, that's kind of how it comes down to. But when it's like Wagner on the field, it's like, where do I line up? He done already told him and slapped him to line him up correctly. And that will at least give you a chance to be successful. If you can't even line up right, that ain't going – it don't even matter who you putting out there if you don't have a chance. And then the thing with Ertz, that is just simply he's just having a rough season. He can go hit the off season and grind, like say, hey, you know what? This may be my last one. Let me go all out. Yeah. He can come back and look like Luka going to LA, right? He can look like a completely changed body, and that's a touchy subject for me. But you get it, though. You get what I'm saying? He could come out like a changed man, triple-double every single night, not slipping on any route, blocking any DB, and then that's fixed. So, like, that's what I feel with those guys. They're going to be great leaders on the field from how they act, Nick. I need those coaches to be able to develop the young talent to bring the game up.
Yeah. Let me say this real quick, Nick. Let me say this real quick. This reminds me of when I was covering the Buccaneers, there was a left tackle, Donovan Smith, and Buccaneers fans hated Donovan Smith. I mean, social media, in the stands, whatever. They were just letting him know, you are not the left tackle we want, protecting whatever quarterback Jameis. It didn't matter who the quarterback was. You are not the left tackle we want. The thing about Donovan Smith, though, is he was so consistent. The dude played every single rep. Then he got injured. I remember the game exactly, but he got injured. Very first rep, very first time since Donovan Smith came out of Penn State that he wasn't the starting left tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterback got sacked in about a second and a half. All of a sudden, every Buccaneers fan out there was like, whoa, get Donovan out that tank. Get Donovan out that tank. Get him out that tank. And it wasn't until Tristan Wirfs, all-pro caliber left tackle, came into the league that it was like, okay, now you can move on from Donovan Smith. He ends up going to the Chiefs. Oh, by the way, wins the Super Bowl. Then he goes to other places. He's bounced around a little bit. I don't even know if he's on a team right now currently because, no, he was not a great left tackle, but he was a lot better. That was the point that we were making back then. He's a lot better than the alternative. If there's a Tristan Wirfs type of linebacker, right, if Jordan McGee is the next all-pro caliber linebacker in the National Football League, guys, I'm fully on board. I'm not on board with replacing Bobby. We're saying, Bobby, just get out of here. We don't like you no more. But saying like, okay, maybe it's time to change the guard. That's the point. There's not that guy. You get to the NFL draft. This team's got 6 draft picks, and you got what you want: safety, you want corner, you want line, you want D line, you want edge, you want linebacker, you want running back, you want receiver. Like, guys, you can't. I mean, this ain't draft day. Kevin Costner's not walking in that building to turn 1 draft pick into 4 draft picks and a stack of pancakes. Like, you have to understand where this team has the ability to make an impact and growth and where they don't have an ability to make an impact and growth. And the draft class has to speak to you too. Like, so this is the conversation I have with fans when I see them in person. They're like, man, I love your show, but I don't understand why you just don't think that Bobby Wagner should be replaced. I say, who is replacing Bobby Wagner today that makes this defense better? Oh, that's why they got to go find one. Dope. Who's the free agent that makes this team better than Bobby Wagner? Oh, well, I haven't really looked at. Oh, okay. Who's the rookie next year? Who's coming out in the draft that makes Bobby Wagner, that makes the team better than Bobby Wagner? Oh, I haven't really looked at. I have, guys. Like that's my job, right? Like, and I don't blame a fan for not looking into it. That's not your job. That's my job. So what I'm telling you when you come here to this program or to Locked On Commanders, or whether you go see Anthony and believe in Commanders or anything else, or go see Nick on social media, like, we look at this stuff. Like, when I tell you there's not a Bobby Wagner upgrade on this team in free agency or in the NFL draft right now, I'm not telling you that because I just like Bobby Wagner. I'm telling you that because I've looked at it. Now, it's November 25th. April 25th, that could be a different story. I don't know yet. We'll find out when we get there. But November 25th, there is no better than Bobby Wagner for this Washington Commanders team.
Yeah, I say this. I think it's the video game aspect of it that kind of that makes it seem so easy to just plug and play. Where you just like, oh, I'll just take him out and I'll just go get the fastest safety and just change in the middle linebacker, and then my defense is great. That ain't how it work up here, man. That's just not
I
how
love
it
doing
works.
that though.
Right.
That's a move right there. You take that guy. You take Rebo. You make him your rush linebacker.
Yeah,
Bro,
I am not playing in your league. If you do that, I am out of here. I hate that. I'm like, why is all these damn small 20 numbers on the field? Can't block nobody.
Trucking guys.
But that's not how the game works. There's a reason why you go look at quarterback and you see the top person is a 58 overall. He ain't coming to get it done, right? So you have to think a little bit further down the line. I know we got more topics to get to, Nick. So let's keep this party rolling.
No, but I think it's true, right? It's almost like it's like politics where somebody stands up there and wants to get elected and they say they're going to do this, 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 and this. Okay. Well, now how are you going to do that? How are you going to execute? And again, David's right. Like, it's not going to all happen right at once. You don't expect fans to know every single little detail. You don't expect the team to have every single detail down in terms of this isn't working at this position. So what are you going to do about it? But what you have to do is figure out that plan. What you have to do is maybe not now, like you can't maybe replace Bobby Wagner now, but in the offseason, if Bobby Wagner is still a part of this team, which I think he should be next year, it's more as a veteran leader with far fewer snaps and far fewer opportunities on the field because you have the talent behind him that he can help grow and he can help get better. That's where his value is moving forward. But for now, that's the best option you got. And that's kind of how sports goes. And that's what happens when you have a team that ultimately is still rebuilding and was forgotten for a while last season. But boy, have we been reminded of it this year. All right, Jayden Daniels practicing. What does that mean beyond Sunday for this team? It's Commanders squad. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. They've literally been doing this for months. And if you haven't taken advantage of this yet, it blows my mind that people still aren't doing this. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashew. We know we sort of have Jayden Daniels back at practice. There's not going to be any contact with him. This isn't like he's not going to play this weekend against the Broncos. That's certainly been established. Look, they lose to the Broncos this weekend, David, and I think you're just kind of looking at like this season. Again, I will still maintain no Jayden the rest of the way. Find the reps in practice, but we don't need to put him out in games that don't matter as much for this team. And I know there's people that feel different. I don't care. I will die on this hill because it's about his entire career and not meaningless games late in the season. But what I will say is this. We went over the playoff scenarios earlier in terms of the very low chance this team is officially eliminated. But if they do beat the Broncos, and you have some losses from maybe, San Francisco's at Cleveland. Maybe Shedeur Sanders works some magic. You got the Packers at the Lions. I mean, the Packers losing that game certainly helps them, and the Seahawks and the Bears. These are teams that losing will still help the Commanders in terms of mathematical playoff scenarios here, if you want to get real nerdy. But what I do know is if this team does feel like they have a chance and is still in the playoff hunt, David, I think I'm not also going out on a limb saying that they're going to want to put him back out there. They're going to do it cautiously. They've shown that they're going to be cautious with his health. But I feel like there's a difference definitely between what they should do and what they will do here, depending on a lot of moving parts that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, listen, this conversation, I love this conversation because I love the fact that everybody has an opinion. But, like, at the end of the day, once Jayden is healthy enough to play, he's going to play. Like, it doesn't matter what the record is. Doesn't matter if they're mathematically eliminated. He's going to play. So, if you're a Commanders fan, even if you don't want to see him on the field again in 2025, like I get the concern. I don't want to discount that. And Dan Quinn even said he understands why the question's out there, why the conversation's be had. He totally gets it. I think really what it boils down to is everybody agrees, right? At the end of the day, everybody agrees. And again, this goes back to the cold open. Like the Commanders are also looking at the future, including 2026. We just see it differently, right? So, and it's kind of like, and roll with me on this analogy if you can. It's like the extra cheese on pizza. Do you want extra cheese on pizza? Okay. Does the extra cheese, if you got a cheese and pepperoni pizza, but you want extra cheese, does the cheese go on top of the pepperoni or does the extra cheese go before the pepperoni? So do you put the extra cheese on before you put the pepperoni on or after the pepperoni? Either way, you're getting pepperoni pizza with extra cheese. It's just where are we sprinkling the cheese? That's basically what this conversation boils down to. Either way, the Washington Commanders are making a decision based on what's best for the future of Jayden Daniels. Nick, you see it as the best decision for Jayden Daniels in his future. Get as many practice reps as you can. Get the real reps in 2026 when the games count in a more significant way because the status of the season, which I totally get. Dan Quinn's view, from what I understand from talking to him and hearing him converse, is we want Jayden Daniels to get as many reps as he can for the future, and we want him to get them as soon as he can because that's the best way to accelerate his growth. So you both want the same thing. Jayden Daniels growing for the future in the best way possible, in the safest way possible. It's just one of you thinks that the cheese needs to come before the topping, and the other one thinks the cheese needs to come in 2026.
Well, my thing is
that's what I need to know.
Yeah,
which one
please clarify.
Which we need and which one
the
do you
cheese,
guys?
The cheese coming on top of the pepperoni is Jayden playing in 2026. I think.
Okay.
Well,
good because I think extra cheese should go on top of the pepperoni. So I think I'm on the same page with
for the record. So do I. But in this case, I'm putting the cheese on with Dan Quinn before the pepperoni.
So the cheese. The cheese on after is wait until later.
Yeah. The cheese going after the pepperoni is wait until
2026. So the extra cheese is in 2026. My
write
issue
that down
is
with
that
snap count.
I did write it down. His snap count actually, Jayden has had 366 snaps. That was he's had. He's so he's on track to come back. If anything, I would say he needs to come back. The Philly game, Dallas, and then Philly. Get 2 games at home. I don't want him playing on no damn whack ass turf up in MetLife. So if you're gonna bring him back, bring him back for the final 3 games. If you bring him back, that'd be my cheese. I've always said put him on the side, but if you're gonna get everybody else coming back, if you get the other toppings, then cool. Then let's do it. My issue is that my damn oven has been acting wonky all year, David. I've been trying to bake stuff. It's doughy in the middle. Then I cook something and it's extra burnt on the outside. Nothing has been cooking well in this oven. That's my issue. So when you're trying to put, just something nice, high quality food in that, this pizza with this fancy cheese you can put on the top, on the extra on the bottom, is the oven gonna work? That's the question for me. That's the whole thing. Now everybody's kind of pushing me more back to the side and say, let this kid get out there and play and build for the future. And I can really get behind it, but very carefully. And if you're doing it the right way, but I like that extra cheese. We had pizza yesterday, and that really resonated with me. And I used to make pizzas.
Clearly.
I mean, look,
I think when you get the extra cheese, I do put the little extra on the top. I do both. I did both. It's just to make sure that it was seen. And like, I can see that they covered the pepperoni. So a little bit of both for me.
I think part of this is on Jayden too, right? I think listen, there's got to be a conversation had about how much of this is on Jayden Daniels as well. Like Jayden has to learn, like every quarterback has to learn. Like Pat Mahomes has had to learn this. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all of them. Go back in the day, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham, like Warren Moon. Like you have to understand, John Elway. You have to understand your value to the organization and how to balance your value with your determination to make plays for your team, right? So there was a play against Miami where Marcus Mariota, and I can't remember the exact context, but maybe somebody out there remember it, but Marcus Mariota takes off runs. He ends up sliding. And it was like 2nd and 8. He slides down, brings up 3rd and 2. Someone in the press box was like, man, Marcus, like you gotta put a shoulder down and get them yards. And I looked at them. I'm not going to out him because I don't like it's not meant to be negative towards him. But I looked at them and said, now, if Jayden had put his shoulder down in that situation and try to get those 2 yards on 2nd down, what would we have said about him? What would he have said then? Protecting the quarterback has to be protecting the quarterback across the board. If we want Marcus Mariota to put a shoulder down and get those 2 extra yards on 2nd down instead of bringing up 3rd and 2, then you need to want Jayden Daniels to do the same thing. If you want Jayden Daniels to get down 2nd and 8, bro, just go with 3rd and 2. Don't put a shoulder down trying to turn 2nd and 8 into 1st and 10. Take 3rd and 2 and go down on the ground and come back on 3rd and 2. You got plenty of plays to go through. That's the way that I want him to do it. So that's what I want to see Jayden Daniels do, and that's what I want to see Marcus Mariota do, which is what he did, because what I want to have happen then is I want David Blau or Tavita Pritchard or somebody in that room watching that tape, because Jayden is in all these meetings, to say, Marcus, A-plus decision here, brother. 2nd and 8, you don't let that Dolphins linebacker send you back into the Stone Age, and you get down, and we come down on 3rd and 2 when we convert with Chris Rodriguez through the A-gap for the 1st down. I don't know if that's what happened, but just roll with me on that. because that's what we want Jayden to do, right? We want Jayden to stop taking these 0-yard sacks where he's getting leveled by a safety on the sideline. We want him to stop taking these 1-yard sacks, these 6-yard gains that should have been a 4-yard gain, bring up 3rd and 1. That's what we want Jayden to do, and I think there has to be a part of it for him. And I remember when he dislocated the elbow, I was like, not in the immediate aftermath, but I said, like, maybe this is the injury that, like, kind of, like, shows him, like, dude, like, you need to make better decisions, because I understand the angst about Dan Quinn, but guess who else? Like, Matt Stafford was still in the game for the Rams the other night against Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 2 minutes left on the clock, up by 3 scores. Like, the Baltimore Ravens had a 2-score lead in the game that they ended up winning. Lamar Jackson played every snap. Like, every single week, these quarterbacks play. Like, quarterbacks don't get pulled in the NFL. I understand when a guy gets hurt, you always want to ask the question, why was he even in there? Because that's the NFL, man. Like, this is what happens in the National Football League. But there has to be an ownership on Jayden Daniels as well. Jayden has to understand how his own value to the organization and how that needs to impact his play. That's part of the growth, which, again, you can't start growing there until you get out there on the field. So, you know what I mean?
You ain't lying. That's definitely facts to the quote where you hear you're going to repeat the same lesson until you learn, to make the correct decisions from that. And then that's so true. That's so true. And you hit on a big point of saying maybe this is the injury, David, that'll, kind of change your mind and where it's kind of like somebody can finally sit you down and look and say, hey, man, come on. You gotta straighten up, man. You gotta tighten up. And I'm fortunate, he's fortunate, I should say, that that's an elbow and it's not a knee. And he's able to be around his team and to get back on the field. Y'all going to slowly sway me to make me change my opinion and my thoughts on this thing. But it's one of those things. I may still say, no, I'll stay on the side, but you have to prove it. You've shown the proof, because what if Dan Quinn is saying, no, you can't play until you can show me that you're going to make those decisions. And I agree that you have to be able to do it on the field. It comes to that, down to that application. Got to play smart. Got to play smart. Don't have to be the tough guy all the time. And not playing on Sunday smart as well, because the Broncos got 49 sacks on the season. And there's no reason to go sign up for that type of beatdown if you don't have to, Nick.
And I think that's one of the big things right there, is you're looking at it going, okay, like, we don't need Jayden out there. And I know he's not ready against the pass rush that's got, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bonito coming after him. Bonito's one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. He's an absolute monster. I will say this about the injury, though. I do kind of buy into the thought process, and maybe some of this is hope, that he does look at that as sort of the turning point in how he approaches individual plays. And I know it's easier said than done when you have the ability to run. Nobody's open. And that was part of the issue in the Seattle game, where nobody was getting open. He had nobody to throw the football to. And it was the first time we really saw, like, frustration from Jayden Daniels, where he's throwing the football down after he's getting tackled, and it didn't feel like him. So you almost look at that and say, some of it, I think, was a mental breakdown from him in some ways, where he's just like, F it, I got to do this myself. And maybe that did lead to that injury there, and he wouldn't have normally run. And that there's a lot of factors that we could put into it. But what I do know is Anthony mentions a defense that is very, very good in the Denver Broncos. And that's who the Commanders are going to see Sunday night. And it is a tough, tough challenge. We'll look at that next on Commander Squad.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So, let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashew. And I know you're laughing, Anthony, at people that are watching the show. You can see in that commercial back there, they're over the shoulder of Cody. There is Mike Shanahan crazy. By the way, Anthony, you get the eyes perfect there. You nailed it.
Man.
And it's funny. I mean, could we call this the Shanahan Bowl on Sunday night? Because you got the Broncos and the Commanders. I know they were the Redskins when he coached there, but hey, he coached both of those teams. Look, this Denver Broncos defense is nasty. I mean, they are nasty. They get after the quarterback. It's one of the, again, having Marcus Mariota as your starting quarterback, it's still one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a veteran that's certainly seen a lot, but he's going to have a lot coming at him, David, this weekend against a Broncos defense that is listen, it's not like they're stupid. They know exactly what to do. They know what works for them. They're going to get after Marcus Mariota every single play.
Yeah. I mean,
nervous
Do we even need to say it, or we just go? Let's
Look,
not even talk about it, right?
look, look, it is what it is. The ball's got to come out quick. You know what I mean? You're going to need to leave guys in to help block. And the problem with leaving guys in to help block is there's not as many weapons in the formation, right? So here's what needs to happen. Here's what needs to happen for the Washington Commanders to have a chance to win this weekend for as many people as they don't want to have them win this weekend. Terry McLaurin's got to come back. And the good news is that there's actually a possibility Terry McLaurin does come back. I would still personally put, but keep in mind, as I'm saying this comment, we haven't been to practice yet this week. So I would probably put it at 40% chance that Terry comes back. But Dan Quinn talked about Terry McLaurin's getting ramped up. Noah Brown's getting ramped up. His 21-day window got opened up. I'll tell you right now, man, if Terry McLaurin can come back for this game, Marcus Mariota is obviously a very serviceable quarterback. He's a savvy veteran, things like that. The offensive line has got their hands full. Clearly, they're going to need some help from inline blockers and all that kind of stuff. If the defense can get Will Harris back, I think Will Harris has the best shot of anybody to come back this weekend off of IR. If Will Harris can come back and Terry McLaurin can come back, I'm telling you guys right now, I think they have a chance to beat the Denver Broncos because the Denver Broncos offense has not been what's carrying this team. I know Bo Nix, obviously the quarterback's going to get a lot of credit, and I'm not saying Bo is bad by any means, but it's this defense, and they're missing Surtain, like you mentioned. Riley Moss is highly targeted, highly flagged on that Denver Broncos defense. Here's what I want Treylon Burks doing, since Noah Brown probably not coming back this weekend. I want Treylon Burks studying every rep with Noah Brown, because Noah Brown, one thing he does really well, guys, if you don't know, is he draws flags. This dude draws DPIs like no other receiver I think I've ever seen in person. I want Treylon Burks in the schoolhouse of Noah Brown, and I want you matched up on Riley Moss just trying to draw a flag. That needs to be part of our game plan. We need to get in the huddle, all right? Trips left, draw a flag on Riley Moss on 3. Let's go. That needs to be the play call, Anthony, because they need to take advantage of that opportunity, get some cheap yards, get some free yards, and then if you get Terry McLaurin out there, get him open on some guys, free up Deebo Samuel, make the Denver Broncos open the box a little bit. You can get some cheap yards out of Chris Rodriguez. Maybe you get Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt to hit a gasher here and there. I'm telling you right now, guys, as banged up as this team is, even with Marcus Mariota in there, even with this Denver Broncos pass rush, if Terry and Will Harris come back, I think the Commanders can win this game.
Yeah, I love that, man. Having Will Harris back, that veteran leadership, somebody who's been chomping at the bit to get back out there, he's sitting there watching all year. I think that could probably be an extra set of eyes of Bobby Wagner of sorts for the secondary to kind of calm people down and give you something where you're going to have some consistency back there. So I would love to see him come back. Having Terry come back, it's going to give you a similar vibe, and it's probably one of those things where his presence is going to be felt where you're just like, golly, okay, cool. We got one guy that we could throw to, not disrespecting the other cats, but it's been tough over the past few weeks. You know what I mean? The defenses haven't been respecting you. They've been playing up tight. They've been trying to, jump on all your routes. So now if you bring your known deep threat and Terry McLaurin, a potent guy who's going to get down the field, who's had success against this team in the past, at least it should open some things up. But the one thing I want to see continually against this defense, even though they're good, and they're pretty good against the run as well, I want to say, but is that I want them to hand that ball off to Chris Rodriguez. All right, this is a game where there should not be more than 27 passing attempts for Marcus Mariota. You don't need to throw the ball a whole bunch of times. You need to focus on running the rock, and then let Tress Way get involved as well. Let the special teams be a part of this thing. Get down there, cover some kicks. If the offense is struggling, then make it difficult on them. Their last few games, like I said, have been, close. They've won close games as of late. This should not be one of those ones where they want to hit an offensive stride all of a sudden. So there is a path forward to get a victory. At least give yourself a chance at the end of the game to get a W with who's the most recent kicker that we got now? Jake Moody.
Jake Moody.
Welcome to town, Jake Moody. Put the ball through the pipes, my man.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin also too. I think you bring up a good point. Like, it's not just about what he does on the field. It's also just defenses have to respect him. The offense is going to feel more comfortable knowing that he's out there. Like, these are the types of factors that go beyond just, well, one of the better receivers in the NFL. And I know we haven't seen a lot of Terry this year, but like, let's remember what this offense looked like in the brief moment that he came back for the first time this year, and the catches that he made, and just the fact, listen, even if he's in double coverage, he can go up and make plays in double coverage. Like, it ain't hard for him. He's done it pretty much his entire career here with a million different quarterbacks throwing him the football, David. So when you look around at what Terry McLaurin could bring to this offense, just that alone, like, that's going to make Marcus Mariota better if he's starting for 2 more weeks. That's going to make the offense better if he's out, even if you don't have Jayden Daniels healthy for the next couple of weeks. That makes a difference from a game planning perspective, but on both sides. I mean, how the Broncos are going to have to respect him if he's out there, how the offense is going to utilize him. And he doesn't have to go out there and get you 7 catches for 120 yards. Some of it is just going to be the distraction and the double team alone that you can scheme around and get a little more creative where, I don't know, maybe then you run the ball a little more with Chris Rodriguez, just a little more. I don't know, anything, David. I'll take whatever they can do at this point with this offense, given the limited resources that they've got.
Yeah, and look, if there's one weakness in the Denver Broncos defense, and a lot of it comes from the rushers that they have and the fact that they love to send them so much, it's a short middle of the field, right? So who can step up in that area? Zach Ertz, who I know we talked about earlier, has had a little bit of a rough season, getting some drops, doing those things. Look, this is an opportunity for Zach Ertz to step up and be that vet and stand up for his team and be the example, right? And show everybody, like, hey, look, just because things have not gone well doesn't mean things can't go better and get better. And maybe, again, another opportunity for a guy like Ben Simmons or John Bates to step up, or even, a guy out of the slot like Deebo Samuel. We'll see. So again, like we've been talking about, all these things open up other things. Guys, I've got a wild idea about Jayden, though, that I want to bring up to you because this is something. Give me a second. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there.
There you go. You're good.
So in my previous career, I had the honor of making some important decisions to try to get organizations running in the right way if they weren't necessarily running in the right way. And I built a little bit of a reputation for being a little unorthodox. I had some things that I put in place that were a little bit kind of weird, a little bit out there, and sometimes made people kind of squint a little bit and say, I don't know about this. Usually they work though. Here's my wild idea, Anthony.
I love them.
And I want your idea because you're a player. So like, you're going to be on the field, on the sideline when this is going down, being like, what is Dan Quinn doing? Not that Dan Quinn's going to do this, but here's my idea. Jayden comes back against Minnesota because he's not coming back against Denver. Jayden comes back against Minnesota. Here's what I'm telling Jayden Daniels as Dan Quinn, knowing that even if we're in still mathematical contention for a playoff spot, it's not very likely we're going to postseason. So here's what I'm telling Jayden. Jayden, listen, we're doing this for the future, not just the future right now, but also 2026. So here's the deal, young fella. Every time you take a hit, you're going to go see Doc Bellamy in the blue tent for a head-to-toe physical before you come back out here. Now, once you're cleared, you can come back out. But Marcus, every time number 5 gets hit, you're going in there until he goes head-to-toe with Doc Bellamy. And that's how we're going to play this game. Because I want Jayden to be Jayden, but I also want Jayden to be careful. I go a little bit back to that Dallas Cowboys game. Remember, he kind of pulled up a little bit with that hamstring before he really hurt the hamstring. And people were I wish they would have pulled it, like seeing that and say, hey, let's get you checked out, young fella. So again, to kind of balance this out, and again, I know it's unorthodox, right? But every time you take a hit, number 5, you're going in the blue tent, you're getting a head-to-toe evaluation from Doc before you go out there, because that's going to cost you at least 1 play, if not 2, every single time that happens. Yeah,
and fans would enjoy it because you could give you a better chance to get a better draft pick. But yeah, the blue tent thing, number 2, keep a perimeter around there so players and other coaches don't go poking your head in there trying to see what's going on and getting yourself fined a whole bunch of money. I can get behind that. I'm all for unorthodox ideas. I'm all for the wonky ones because we can make that thing work. It's one of those things that would be so annoying that it would force you into playing better, right? That's one of those things like in football practice, you fumble the ball, you're going to run a mile. You're going to take the ball with you. You got to carry the ball everywhere. If somebody brings it back to me, I'm going to fine you, and then you're going to run a mile. Like, it's one of those annoying things where, David, you got a point there. It could work. It could be something that you got to get to. There's so much that you can show on tape and say, here's what you should have done or what you could have done. And then you start to rehearse the correct answer behind them. I got to do better there. I got to do better. And then even the hamstring thing, when you mentioned that, somebody on the sideline was probably looking and saying, you good? He's like, I might just wave them off. Like, you're not going to walk out there and grab them. You're not going to call a timeout, because then you're going to be on Twitter. Why Dan Quinn waste a timeout to check on his hamstring? We needed that timeout. Like, there's no right answer apparently. So it's just one of the things, man. Going unorthodox may be the best way to do it. And I'm all for it, because in this business, they beat the same damn drum all the time, Nick. A lot of times I feel like you got to shake up a bit just to try to get something different to happen.
Could you imagine if this plan was actually implemented and the outrage on social media? And I know social media isn't a gauge. Right. I love this, David, by the way, because in some ways it's this incentive of just like, dude, don't get yourself hurt. But then you're going to get, it's football and there's physicality and this is the way this. Oh my God. You know what? I'll be honest with you. At this point, at 3-8, I want to see them do this just for the chaos, just as an experiment. Let's do this for science.
And it's accountability too. Every other player is like, I can't let Jayden get hit. Hell, announce it. If he gets hit, we got to take him out of play. Look, like, that's his punishment.
I know it's funny, but I'm telling you right now, like, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but I'm also actually serious. Listen, I'm the same person, and I'm not going to get into the full story here because it's not the platform for it. But I will tell you right now, I once punished one of my junior leaders, and I'm not even joking, guys. I gave her 5 days off. But that's how I punished her, by giving her 5 days off. And when I tell you that worked like a charm, and when I also tell you I had 3 different senior leaders who were like, hold up, what are you doing? I said, here's what I'm doing. And they were like, bro, what? And I said, trust me. And I'm telling you right now, by that 5th day, that there was nothing that leader wanted more than to come to work. So, yeah, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but also, I mean, not that I think Dick was going to do it, but I honestly, I like me. I think it's a good idea.
You want to take it a step further, because I sure don't want to risk injury. If anybody touches the kid, if you touch him, so much to touch him, get out of there. Get out of here. Because now you got to block. Now you got to really make sure you're doing your job, right? There's an old lineman. You really got to make sure you're on your stuff, because it's like, hey, man, if he even gets touched, he's getting out of the game. And then Jayden's going to be mad at me, and we don't want that to happen to go down. So, yeah. David, let's
Wiley,
do
Nick Allegretti, Trent Scott, Brandon Coleman, they're all ready. They're all ready to take them reps from you. If you can't protect that quarterback, they're ready to go in there and do it.
Now, don't take them off the field too if he gets hit.
That'd be too much. John Bates, left guard. Let's go. Just do it. Yeah. Jalen Lane, right tackle.
Hey, let's make this happen. At this point, with the way the season's gone, you might as well just try something. Give it an experiment. It's a 2-quarterback system, and maybe the whole thing works. Listen.
That's why I thought you were going, man. At this point. Give me that Steve Spurrier, man. Why not? Shoot. They should do Jayden start, go Wildcat 2 quarterbacks, call it Heisman 2.0, right? You got a little mini Heisman 2 quarterbacks, then take Jayden out. Now Mariota's the quarterback. They don't know what the hell's going on. That's how you confuse a good defense, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, this is how I would buy into Jayden playing meaningless games the rest of the way. Is a 2-quarterback system and a rotation and getting creative and experimenting. At least we're trying something, and at least we're maybe protecting him a little bit more and limiting the hits that are there. I'll take anything at this point. But, of course, got to focus on the Broncos and Marcus Mariota, who's going to be starting Sunday night against them. Dan Quinn has taken over the defense. How is this defense going to look against Denver? Will it continue to kind of look more like it did in Dallas? We certainly saw some positive signs against the Dolphins before the bye. We'll look at that and what happens Sunday night. It's Commander Squad. All right, David Harrison, Anthony Armstrong, and Nick Ashew. Dan Quinn's going to keep calling the defense. I think we realize now that was certainly a difference maker. And I can remember when they hired him, that was one of the questions, right? It was, okay, is he still going to handle the defense? Is he going to be more of a head coach that's sort of, delegating around to the rest of the coaching staff? And the delegation is certainly happening in other places. But, you look at a defense that kind of felt like it was more detail oriented against the Dolphins, limiting their explosive plays, a couple of big goal line stands. They held them to 16 points. And I know the Dolphins are all over the place this year, but we know the weapons that they do have and their ability to make explosive plays a big part of their game plan and a big part of what you see on the field with them. So I'll say this, Anthony, I at least saw positive signs of Dan Quinn taking over that defense as something that will likely be the rest of the way. The problem is, and again, we still have the rest of the season to think about. That can't be necessarily a long-term plan, but I think that is the Band-Aid now that they need to use the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. You make sure your continuity is going to start from the top, especially defensive-minded head coach. He has his own vision of what he wants. You might as well go out there and get that thing done yourself. Now, offensively, I don't need him to go and try to call offensive plays. To leave that to Dan Campbell, who's handling that. But our DQ, man, I would love him to stay at that coordinator's position. I think a lot of it came down to him wanting to help develop, give Joe Witt Jr. the chance to lead the whole defense. And I mean, I'm assuming I'm not in the building, I don't know any of those things, but it just felt like that was kind of what the plan was, and he could kind of focus on leading the whole team. And frankly, there was a lot other things that were was going on, from contract holdouts and a lot of other questions that he's had to answer all year. But rather than getting all the way down to handling the defense, it wasn't a natural gas bounty that he found down in Texas like Jerry Jones, but injuries.
Glory hole.
Yeah, it was injuries. It was a whole bunch of other things that DQ had to handle before getting down there and trying to fix the on-field thing. So I'm glad he's calling the plays now, but I want to see a valiant performance against this Broncos team, because they got some talented players, especially at the receiver position.
Now, so something about Dan Quinn taking over the defense that I really wanted to watch, and I was happy to see more of, is doing things that confuse opposing quarterbacks, right? And look, Tua's been in the league for a little bit. He's a little bit more of a veteran, but Bo Nix is not. And Bo Nix, I know he's played a lot of football, played a lot of college ball, all these things, but there's still an element of youthful play to him that you see when you watch the Broncos play. He'll throw some interceptions. He'll throw some bad passes. This season, when I think of aggressive defenses, I think of defenses that will bring pressure everywhere, right? And I always go back. We talk about unorthodox play. I remember talking to Quan Martin about this once. I asked Quan Martin and said, have you ever played in the shade? And I know that there's different terminology across football and every different level, Anthony, but most people understand when I say, have you played in the shade, that means what? You play nose, you play over the center, right? Quan Martin, a defensive player, did not know what that meant. That's not an insult to Quan Martin. He's a safety. Why would he know what that means? It's not part of his repertoire, right? And the reason I asked him that is, what I remember? This is going into the Chiefs game. I remember the most about covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs is when Todd Bowles brought a safety through the A-gap, lined the safety in the shade, over the nose. He had a nose tackle that was a safety. Literally talking about Madden, right? Literally. And he brought him. And guess what the Chiefs did? Didn't block him. Because somewhere in their mind, they were like, hey, no way in hell this little dude is coming through this gap right now. And he sure enough came. There's another rep, if you go back and watch that Super Bowl, not that you will, where Todd Bowles didn't bring one DB. He didn't bring two DBs. This man brought three defensive backs on a blitz. And the great Patrick Mahomes ran away and got sacked for like a 12-yard loss because he was like, what? I don't even know what's happening right now. Mm-hmm. You got Vita Vea in a hook zone. Like what is going on right now? The Washington Commanders defense, their top blitzing defensive back this year, guys, has 7 pass rush snaps. Jeremy Reeves, tied for 78th in the league. That's the top DB. You know who else has 7 pass rush snaps this year? J.C. Horn, the Carolina Panthers cornerback.
Wow.
Who should not be leading, who should not have the exact same amount of pass rush reps as your box safeties in an aggressive defense, right? Last time we saw his Washington Commanders defense, Dan Quinn calling the defense, 4 defensive backs blitz, 4 different defensive backs blitz in that game. That is obviously a higher clip. When your leader for the season only has 7 pass rushes, that's a higher clip. Now, that's not like the end-all, be-all, like, boom, light bulb, blitz DBs, defense fixed. No, but you like the new wrinkle, right? You like the additional effort, especially when you got a guy like Tyler Owens out there. Tyler Owens is a guy who needs to play square to the line of scrimmage, and he's best when he's running forward. Blitz him all day long. Blitz him and drop Jacob Martin into the zone. Replace him with Jacob Martin, and maybe Jacob Martin get his hands on interception when Bo Nix says, oh, no, I got a safety vacating an area. I'm going to put the ball right there to Troy Franklin, but he doesn't see Jacob Martin falling into that area. Do those types of things. Bring Quan Martin. Quan Martin has been struggling in coverage. He's been struggling pursuing the ball. Guess what? If he's running through the line of scrimmage, you don't have to worry about that because you're going to replace him with somebody else who maybe will have a better opportunity to do some of those things. Show pressure with Frankie Luvu, drop him back, bring Quan Martin on the opposite side, and have Frankie there to contain downfield in case they get loose. Do some of these things. We saw more of that against the Miami Dolphins. I want to continue to see more of that against the Denver Broncos, and perhaps you can get Bo Nix to make some mistakes and turn the ball over.
You get Will Harris back, that'll help free some things up.
Yep.
And that's where those injuries come into play, because there's a trust factor, right? Like if we're running a blitz in practice and we only get 10 reps in a period, they run 7 of them for the ones and twos. They're only going to run them, them fire blitzes and those really creative things with the ones and the twos. Right. And once you start getting way deep down there, it's like, dang it, he's never ran this before. I could make him do it, but I don't trust him in it. I don't want to call it. And there's so much indecision that goes behind that. So whereas you don't want to rely on injuries being a reason, it's definitely something that shows up and it rears its ugly head, Nick, in a lot of different aspects of this team. And I love that breakdown, David, because that's spot on. You got to find ways. You got to find ways to get creative. You got to hit that little individual player and adjust. This is Madden. Change that individual player's job. That's where I was on other shows. I've mentioned, hey, the safety talking to the corner saying, yo, you don't have anybody in the flat. Help me on this corner route. Quit hanging around at 5 yards because it's cover 2. Shoot, I almost cussed. If it's cover 2, but there's nobody in the flat, drop back to 10 to 15 to help me on this corner route. You might steal a pick. You know what I mean? That's what they weren't doing. They didn't do those things earlier. Now they're doing it. You mentioned Todd Bowles. I remember sometimes when the defense were operating at the best, and even on offense, you could put all 11 in a room and they could say, safety, what is the defensive lineman supposed to be doing? And they would know those assignments. Right. On defense, it's all about fits, and you know where people are supposed to be. So when they have that type of unity and continuity building over this year and next year, you're going to have a very dangerous defense.
Don't feel bad, Anthony. I've wanted to drop like a million F-bombs on this show throughout the season. So the one thing they told me when I signed was that I'm not allowed to do that. And I was very upset because, coming from traditional media, this is supposed to be the outlet for that. But I can't, but it's okay. I'll just deal with it and we'll move on from that. Hopefully after that Broncos game, though, we're not dropping any F-bombs and this team is still alive in the playoff hunt, or at least looking competitive. We all have different views on the way this season goes. What I will say is, first off, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. This is our last show with us three together before Thanksgiving. We will be back after that Broncos game on Sunday night. Of course, make sure you subscribe to all of the different things on the Locked On Commanders channel. Between this, David's also be doing his show every single day. Give us a follow on all of the various socials that are there. We will talk to you Sunday night after the Commanders and Broncos here on Commander Squad.